Welcome back, and today we have the Miguron AMEIGHT PREYERT II, and they've been impressing me a whole lot this year with their high value that they bring to the table, and this one's no exception. You have a nice full-size EDC knife at 8.22 inches overall and a 3.54 inch blade of CPM S90V steel, and I found that they do a pretty good job with it. Got a nice top swedge that thins out the tip a little bit, but you still have a pretty robust tip there. If you need to do some, twisting with it, you should be fine. You do have jimping, however, I found that I overshot it the majority of the time. You have a good sharpening choil that should give you a little bit of sharpening light before it starts to widen up back there. You have a nice blade hole for deployment. We'll talk about that more later on. You have a saber ground blade, flat ground, that comes down to around 20 thousandths behind the edge. Let's see how it performs. My knife came very, very sharp out of box and was slicing very well through the cardboard. However, being that you have a pretty high belly on this clip point, the longer row of cardboard slicing may give you a little bit of trouble. You might find yourself sliding out of the cut, but this length cardboard was no problem whatsoever. I did find myself getting hung up in the sharpening choil a few times, but I adjusted for it, no problem. Now we're going to test the ergos and how that edge wants to bite into this piece of birch. And doing the light duty slicing wasn't bad whatsoever. I did find when I really started bearing down that where the handle comes down, there's somewhat of a hard line right there that was kind of uncomfortable for my pinky and pinky and ring finger. But nothing terrible. I was able to get a good bit of force into the wood, however, though. It just probably wouldn't be my first choice to do for a long period of time, but definitely acceptable, for in a pinch. The edge felt great. The clip didn't bother me any. And let's hope it holds up well through the rest of the testing. But so far, I'm definitely satisfied with how it is performing. Due to the deeper belly, you have to pretty much use that belly to do drag cuts because you'd have to raise your hand up too high to use that tip. But that belly makes it very easy to cut stuff on a flat cutting surface because you basically just push into it, doing a sawing motion, slicing motion. And so far, it's passing through all the material pretty darn good. Like I said, it's not super thin behind the edge, but with a nice sharp edge on it, it is performing, good enough. Tons of bite here. And that's something I usually can tell right away when I do the denim is how much bite the knife has. And yeah, it made short work of it, no problem. Now we move to the 1/2 inch twisted sisal rope. And right away, I noticed that it was push cutting. And once again, doing it on a flat surface is very easy because you have the momentum of the wider, blade coming down into that rope. And I was able to do it fairly easily. And so far, it's comfortable in the pinch grip. And as you can see, I'm using that pointer finger grip, which is not something you usually see me use unless the knife is very sharp, because it's too hard to do. But it's a lot more comfortable for me that way, and I don't get as many blisters whenever I'm able to do the pointer finger grip. But most of the time, the knives aren't sharp enough. So definitely happy with that. It saves my hand, saves my wrist, and I don't get fatigued as quickly. But it's moving very fast through it. If you've never cut a bunch of sisal rope, it's very, very harsh on the edge because it's very abrasive, and it's making short work of it. I ended up grabbing another piece of rope, not something I normally do, but I wanted to test this S90V out more than I would normally do. And I happen to have an extra cut piece near me, and we end up making 102 cuts before it started to slow down a little bit, but not much. I could have done more than that, but that was where I ran out of that second piece, and unfortunately I didn't have another piece near me. But definitely, in my opinion, I think that's great. We'll test that edge after we're done. It still feels really nice, but you know, I wouldn't be shocked if there was maybe one or two hang-ups up there where I did all the rope cutting and all the other cutting. But if it can even slice paper, I would call that a major win in my book. But yeah, super impressed, especially at $144. What else could you ask for? I must say I was super impressed with how this one performed. Let's see how that edge is. Got a little bitty hang up, but I call that really good. Yeah, one low hang up right there. Excellent. Now let's take a look at the deployment and the action of the knife. You have a flipper tab that has some jimping there. You have a blade hole, and this thing comes rocketing out. It's riding on ceramic bearings with a ceramic detent ball. Pretty much fall shut. Easy to reverse flick it. And for me, that flipping action is just excellent because you have that pretty chunky blade that uses that momentum to come out very fast, and that flipper tab is sitting right in front of that pivot, giving you a lot of momentum. It's super hard to believe, but these are only $144. You have these nice titanium scales that have this beautiful, beautiful diamond texture on here, and then on the side you have this micro milling. Just so much milling going on. It is unbelievable. And this is pretty thick slabs of titanium here. This one is anodized bronze. They have other anodization colors as well. You have a small titanium backspacer that sits flush with the scales. You have a Torx T8 for the pivot and T6 for the body screws and clip screws, unfortunately. I would have loved to see them all T8, but at $144 for everything else you're getting, I'm okay with it. You have a 3mm titanium pocket clip that functions nicely. However, it is sitting on top of that texture, so it could be a pocket destroyer after a while. And it's definitely not deep carry. You have a good bit of the knife sticking out. I also would have loved to see them tap this for lefties as well. Don't understand why they seclude that part of the market. They did everything they could to reduce the weight on the inside by skeletonizing the top and bottom heavily. First in grams, 137.7 grams or 4.86 ounces. Not all that bad. It feels a lot lighter in the hand because it's perfectly balanced. Now let's take a look at the lockup. The lock is sitting, I'd say, at around, I don't know, 40% or so. When I say bank vault, I can't muscle any movement up or down, left or right whatsoever. Very, very tight lockup. Access to the lock bar is good because this comes down a little bit lower than the lock itself, and they do have some texture there. Very easy to get to it, no problem whatsoever. Size comparison with the Ontario Rat 1 and 2. Spyderco PM2 and Para 3. Lastly, we have the Spartan Blades Aster and the Civivi Praxis. Nitpicks and complaints, I would have loved to see T8 hardware throughout, and also I would have loved to see it tap for lefties, and even better if they could move this clip up to the end right here, maybe even use that clip screw. That way you wouldn't have that much of the knife sticking out. But at $144, can I recommend it? Highly, highly. I thought it performed really, really well, and they got so much milling on this titanium. Most companies would charge double the price of this one. It's got a beautiful action, and yeah, there you go. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. I hope everybody's having an absolute amazing day. I will see y'all on the next one. Peace.